Wow, episode 800. I cannot believe this, guys. When I first started making these videos, video number one, episode number one, I never ever imagined there would be 800 of these, let alone that people would still be watching after 800 videos about Cardano. If you have ever seen these videos and you ever see this number 800 video, it means only one thing. Despite what you would like to believe about yourself, you are a very optimistic person who believes in the future of humanity and wants to fight the good fight. You have joined the good fight. If you weren't the kind of person that jumps into the good fight, no matter how much the odds seem to be stacked against us, you would have left Cardano and these videos a long time ago. You would have been in Solana. You could have been, following Tesla or Nvidia or some of their tech stock. You could be in the equities world. You'd be doing anything but Cardano. The only way you're still here is if you are this very optimistic type of person who's going to jump into the fight that they think is the good fight, no matter the odds, no matter how many, no matter how many members of this gigantic cavalry unit are pointing their lances at you. You're the type of person who's going to pull the sword and stand there, brace for the charge. That's the type of person you are if you're watching these videos at number 800. To celebrate all of us being around for this long, I thought there's only one thing we should do. We've done 800 videos. We should just make a list of demands. So I made a list of demands and I made a bunch of phone calls. I called the White House. I called the Vatican. I called capital cities all across Europe, all across Asia, Africa. I called everybody, just laid out my demands. Number one, I wanted Charles Hoskinson to make a really inspirational video full of optimism, positivity, hope for the future, and the fact that the reason we're all on Cardano is because we're fighting the good fight. Then I demanded goddamn alien NHI UAP disclosure. Then I wanted the odds of the Clarity Act passing to go up. Then I asked if AI could just destroy all SaaS companies. Then I was like, it'd be a nice bonus if China could be exposed for faking their advanced robotics. I also requested that the Iranian hypersonic missile danger to U.S. carrier strike groups be explained, if not debunked. And to top it all off, I was like, hey, people are really freaked out about this Epstein file thing. Nobody's been arrested. Could you just at least arrest Prince Andrew? And the resounding answer I got back on every single one of these demands was yes. You guys have stuck around for 800 videos about Cardano. All of you deserve for each one of these demands to be met. Ready? Let's go. If you also cannot believe you're still around at video 800, or if you're finding value in these videos, please consider delegating to the Army of Spies DRep address and the Army of Spies stake pool, ticker AOS. All right. Number 800. Thank you everyone for joining. I appreciate everybody joining. And also for people who've been around for any portion of this 800 episode ride we've been on, the reason why this series is called the Cardano Rumor Rundown and the channel is called Army of Spies. I've said this many times, but it's not that my name is Army of Spies or that I am that thing. It's that all of us together are a part of this thing that is Cardano. The channel is really about Cardano. So this astronaut who's been appearing in the thumbnails, it's not me. It's all of us. It's Cardano doing its thing, fighting the good fight, even if that's not the easy thing, even if the odds are stacked against us. Let's face it, a lot of crypto hates us for unknown reasons, right? A lot of crypto hates us, right? It's Would Solana have been an easier ride? Would Ethereum have been an easier ride? Would Bitcoin have been an easier ride? Sure, you could make arguments for all those things. But were they the ones who were really fighting for decentralization? Not as much as we were. They weren't really in the good fight, not in the same way we were. Some of them think they are. Certainly the Bitcoin people think they are the vanguard of decentralization. But then when you ask them about their Nakamoto coefficient, they're like, that's not, they're just like hemming and hawing because they know they are not the vanguard of decentralization. That's motherfucking Cardano. That's us. We're the ones doing the real decentralization shit. When it's time for decentralization to fight the battles, it's Cardano out there standing alone on the goddamn battlefield saying, hey, decentralization means you've got decentralized validation. You've got a permissionless blockchain. You've got decentralized governance. Everything needs to be decentralized and permissionless and censorship resistant and immutable. We're the only ones doing the thing. We're standing there and everybody else is charging at us like, that's not what decentralization means. Those metrics aren't the real metrics. You're not really the only one who's a blockchain. We're all blockchains too. So what if there's only 3 validators that matter? They're all screaming the same things. And there's so many of them. They're all fucking cheating. They're all cheating the decentralization thing and claiming to be blockchains. There's so many of them. It is exactly like this astronaut standing there in his scuffed up spacesuit with some old sword in his hand. And he's like, come, I'm here. I've got a sword. You've got spears. You've got lances. You've got swords. Let's do this thing. No matter what, we're dying on this goddamn decentralization hill. We're not here to do the Solana thing. We're not here to pretend like our validation is more decentralized than it really is. We're not here to be reigned over by Emperor Vitamin Butters. We're really here to do the decentralization thing, and we'll die on this goddamn hill. That's what Cardano is. That's why this is the army of spies. That's why the people who stuck around in Cardano have stuck around this long. And I like to think that that good karma, the fact that we've stuck to it, the fact that we've refused to leave this hill, that we've died on the hill of decentralization, I like to think somehow, there's some aspect of reality that rewards that kind of realness. And on days like today, good things can happen. And I think it did today. So let's see who's here. Future is here. Grats, and thank you for 800 episodes. Thank you for joining. I appreciate it. Flyverme's here. May you never have to go back to the fiat mines. We appreciate the hard work. Let's go. I wish that were true. I so wish that were true. Did a lot of freelancing over the last month or so. A lot of actual fiat mine work, even if I wasn't in the fiat mines. I may have to go back into them, but fully soon. But we'll see. Raz says, congrats for your 800th episode, for your 800th show, AOS. Glad to be a part of it. Thank you for joining. I'm glad you're a part of it. Hilldog says, let's fucking go. Let's fucking go. Adam Olson says, Trump is releasing the alien files. That's right. And we're going to talk about it. God damn it. Omar Wright says, they live. Let's fucking go. That's right. The big 8. Let's go. Thanks for being here, Brown Beardo. Neo Chad says, number 8 on the 800th. Let's go. Let's go. Joe Davidson, oh my God, aliens. That's right. This is that day. This is that day. Man, it seems inevitable. It seemed like it was inevitably going to come since 2017. Since December 2017, I knew this day was coming, but it feels so wild to be here. It feels so wild to be here. Episode 800 gets alien disclosure. What synchronicity? Agreed. Jordan for America says Earth is flat. No need for AOS. UAP, just keep it crypto, y'all. How do you have gas pressure without a container? Okay, fair enough. Diego Max here, 800. Wow, congrats, Army. Thank you. Cardinal for the win. Bonjour, everybody. Bonjour. Troll says, hello. Thank you for joining. Dolphy Wolf says, good morning, OS. Have been with you for the ride to 800. Slightly wacky, brutally honest, and open-minded rundowns. Life just has more meat with this family of spies. Congrats and big thanks. Thank you for being here, Dolphy Wolf. I appreciate it. Kristen Bowman says, happy 800th AOS. What a ride it's been. Thank you for being here. Dorian's here. I know this is like a brutal hour of the day for Dorian, so I really appreciate you being here, Dorian. Much appreciated, as always. have appreciated you being here all along. Very much appreciate it. Mission Zambia says, good morning. Good morning. Joe Davidson says, fire to be here. Fire to be here. Thank you for being here. David M. Jensen is here. Checking in. All right. Mission Zebby says, congratulations on episode 800. Your insight is valuable to the community, is grounded in our shared values and always appreciated. Let's go. Let's go. Thanks for being here. Welcome to USDCX on the Cardano blockchain. Yeah, USDCX was also on the list. You'll see it shows up in the tabs. I just forgot to say it, but it was also on the list and we got it. We got it today. It's amazing. Today's an amazing day. The level of synchronicity is insane today. It's insane. Hill Dog, thank you. Thank you for being here. I appreciate you for being here for so long. Otis Fricho says, made it, but not on long tonight. Fiat mines are killing me. Let's go 800. Let's go. Otis Fricho, thank you for joining the videos. Appreciate it. Hill Dog says, smash the like and delegate AOS. Thank you, Hill Dog. Huji Whammer says, thanks for doing these videos. If you have to back to the fiat mines, please come back every once in a while. I certainly will. I certainly will. I mean, I left for a long time last time out of necessity, but I think if I have to go back again, I'll be able to. This format is a little easier to kind of just comment on things and pump out videos. It doesn't it doesn't eat up quite as much editing time. So it's a little bit easier to do these videos for sure. Pucky Hawk says, I feel so broken somehow. I think we're all broken, but God damn it, if you're still on the battlefield, you're still in the fight. We're still in it, guys. We're still in it. Jolly Frog says, congrats, big fans at the beginning. I appreciate that so much, Jolly Frog. And to everybody else, I know there's a lot of people who listen to these videos and, you know, I never get a chance to thank you personally because you may not be in the live comments or the other comments, whatever it is. But for everybody who listens, whether you've ever commented at all or not, I know there's some of you, it's just not your thing, but I appreciate every single person who's listened to these videos. Dorian says it's just over 5 a.m. here. 5 a.m. is pretty early. That's pretty early. I really appreciate you joining, Dorian. Really appreciate it. Pucky Hawk says, I am here, no longer broken, had to reload. I think I will write a Cardano song. I'm still addicted to Suno. Please do. Please write a Cardano song. I will love to hear it. I will love to hear it. Maybe send it. I don't think you can post links in the comments here because we had to do that because of the spammers. But send it to me on X. If you're on X, send it to me on X. I would love to hear your Cardano song. Okay, guys, let's jump into it because a lot of things did happen today. It really is like the universe is rewarding all of us for fighting this very, very difficult fight for so long, the fight for decentralization. And Charles is, I think I did say it last night. You know, last night I considered this 800 episode to be like the unveiling of this thing I've been working on. But I watched Charles's video this morning and I was like, that's the spirit of Cardano. That's why we're all really here. That's what we need to talk about tonight. And by the end of the day, all these wonderful things had happened. And I was like, this is what we've got to talk about. To hell with the other thing. We can talk about the other thing some other time. So this has turned out to be a great day. Let's jump into it. Let's jump into it. Let's talk about all the crazy stuff that happened today. There's a lot of it, and it's all good. It's all good. So the day started out with some comments like this. It sounds like the US government is set to announce the existence of non-human intelligence this year. There have been too many leaks to be merely coincidental. I shared that sentiment this morning. This morning I was like, I share that thought. Too many leaks. Too many leaks. Pretty soon we saw this. This is John Greenwald, famous UAP FOIA guy. Jackpot, the Obama Presidential Library just informed me they have approximately 3,440 pages and 26,000 electronic files that pertain to ATIP, UFOs, UAPs, OSAP. If true, I am absolutely floored the Obama Presidential Library has that. I was like, that's very promising. This is such a big development. This is just the start of the day. I was like, man, this is a great day for NHI disclosure. I can't believe we're hearing this. There's that treasure trove of information in the Obama library. This all made sense to me because, you know, it was various elements of the prior Obama administration going into Hillary's campaign who had hooked up with To the Stars Academy and Tom DeLonge. And that whole nexus kind of kicked off the whole disclosure movement, the modern piece of it anyways, this big accelerated piece, December 2017, all the videos coming out, this all made perfect sense. Then we saw this. Things started to get really, really spicy. D.U says, another day, another like. I appreciate that very much, D.U. Thank you for being here. Things started getting really spicy. You guys know who Peter Doocy is. He was the bane of the existence of the last White House press person. And so, you kind of assume he's going to have a little bit greater access during this administration because he was such a thorn in the side the last administration. So no surprise it's him who breaks this kind of news. Breaking aboard Air Force One. President Trump just told me about Barack Obama's recent comment that aliens are real and possible evidence of non-human visitors to Earth. He gave classified, this is him repeating what Trump said. He gave classified information. He's not supposed to be doing that. I don't know if they're real or not. I can tell you he gave classified information. He made a big mistake. When people saw this news, and Peter Doocy actually wasn't the first one to post about this, somebody else beat him on Twitter, must have like posted it from their phone from Air Force One, like seconds after this exchange happened. So we kind of heard about it first. And then Peter Doocy, nobody believed it when news broke about this on Twitter. And then Peter Doocy confirmed it. And people were like, he's not even really a guy who's known for reporting on UAP stuff. That's kind of weird. And then the video came out. This Fox News video came out of the actual exchange. And it does go exactly like this. Peter Doocy says, Barack Obama said aliens are real. Have you seen any evidence of non-human visitors to Earth? Trump says he gave classified information. He's not supposed to be doing that. And all of a sudden, it was like all the cars, all the UAP people interested in UAP, all the cars screeched to a stop. And it was like, wait a second. Somebody asked Trump a question about the Obama alien admission thing. And Trump's response was not, I don't know anything about it. His response was, he gave classified information. Meaning, the obvious logical conclusion is that Trump is saying there is classified information about NHI and UAP and aliens and UFOs and all these things, right? So we already knew that. But we haven't had a goddamn sitting president say that before. We've never had a sitting president say, hey, there's a lot of classified information about aliens. So Doocy says, so are aliens real? Thank God. Thank you, Peter Doocy. That is the question. And I'm not being naive here, guys. I know there's a strong possibility that this was all choreographed, right? Peter Doocy, no surprise. he is not an enemy to this administration, not an adversarial reporter. So very strong chance this could be choreographed. I don't care. I love it. I'm eating it up. Trump says, well, I don't know if they're real or not. I can tell you he gave classified information. He's not supposed to be doing that. He made a big mistake. He took it out of classified information. He gets even more specific. He's like, he took it out of classified information. So he's saying directly, when Obama said aliens are real, he took it out of classified information, like literally admitting there's classified information that says aliens are real. We have not had a goddamn sitting president ever say that shit before. Trump, maybe I'll get him out of trouble. I may get him out of trouble by declassifying. And when I heard that last part, I was like, that's not the headline. Who cares about that? You're not going to get him out of trouble. You're not going to declassify shit. Maybe this summer, maybe the rumors are true. Maybe you give the speech, maybe, but you're not going to get Obama out of trouble by declassifying. It's not exactly what you're known for. Then the next thing happened. To the comments for a second, though. Sub-Zero, think we are moving toward a national ID. Depends on if that, we already have passports. So, you know what I mean? Passport is a national ID. So if you travel overseas, you've got one already. If you do any traveling overseas, you've got one. Tony Gam says, let's go. Happy 800. Thank you, Tony. I appreciate you joining. Jay Marie says, yo, I'm late. That's okay. You can be late anytime. Crypto Gypsy's here. Hi, guys. Hi, Crypto Gypsy. Thanks for joining. Matthew 8543 says, are you staking Night with your pool at AOS? So the Night, the actual DReps being on the mainnet isn't going to happen until later. It's going to launch as a federated mainnet first, which means the stake pool operators won't be on it. So that won't be coming for a bit. And we're going to look at, we have to make sure it works, right? Because we actually have to pay for things for the stake pool. So we have to make sure it works economically and all those things. But I want to though. Guinness Peak says, what's up, folks? Just got in, and yes, aliens are real. Yep. We've now had two presidents, one sitting president and one recently sitting president, both tell us that aliens are goddamn real. It's wild. If one were an alien, they'd be sitting here drinking beer and hoping for everyone to declare bullshit. I mean, we need more aliens first. Yep. Happy 800. Gonna smoke a fatty to celebrate. Let's go. Let's go, J. Marie. Let's go. Enjoy, man. So this was really spicy. This was one of the biggest things to happen in UAP disclosure in a long, long time. Maybe the biggest thing since 2017 December, when the videos started coming out, Gimbal, Go Fast, you know, all the videos. This was a big deal. Then it got crazier. Then he doubled down and it got crazier. Based on the tremendous interest showing, I will be directing the Secretary of War and other relevant departments and agencies. I hope that means the IC. I hope that means every agency in the IC to begin the process of identifying and releasing government files related to alien and extraterrestrial life. Notice he referred to those as two different things, guys. Notice that. Alien and extraterrestrial life, unidentified aerial phenomena, and unidentified flying objects. So obviously, UAP is the current euphemism we use in place of UFOs, and it's a little bit more expansive because it also takes into account USOs, unidentified objects that are going under the ocean, in the ocean. So it's both the things they see underwater and things they see in the air. And unidentified flying objects and any and all other information connected to these highly complex but extremely interesting and important matters. So he's telling you a lot of things here, right? He's referring to alien and extraterrestrial life differently. He could have used NHI here to cover both non-human intelligence. The reason there's a distinction is because non-human intelligence could be terrestrial. It could be here on Earth. It could have been here on Earth longer than we've been here on Earth. That means it would be just as terrestrial as us, if not more so. So this is telling. The fact that he divided these two means he understands the distinction. He didn't use NHI, which doesn't surprise me because he also used UFOs. He's being really clear here. He could have just said UAPs, and then we wouldn't have known what we were getting. We could have gotten a bunch of shit about drones, right? If he just said UAPs. But if he says aliens and extraterrestrials and UAPs and UFOs, that means we're getting UFOs, we're getting USOs. I mean, the track record of disclosure recently for the U.S. federal government hasn't exactly been, let's say, satisfying. So we don't know what we're actually going to get. You know, I mean, who knows what actually comes out of this? Is it going to be anything good or just a bunch of bullshit? We don't know. But this is still the biggest thing that's happened in UAP disclosure since 2017. This is the biggest thing. This is it. This is the biggest thing. At least it's an acknowledgement. What happened today was an acknowledgement that the sitting president, he knows there are things there. He knows there are documents in the possession of at least the Department of Defense, now the Department of War, that we want to see. He knows it. This is the first time that's been acknowledged. This is a really big deal. So very excited to see this, obviously. Then we had something we've been waiting for a really long time in Cardano, USDCX, live on Cardano mainnet. There you go, guys. We have a goddamn tier 1 stablecoin on Cardano. We've been waiting a long time for this. This is a long time coming. Here it is. I don't think it's going to do what a lot of people are hoping it's going to do, but still we need it, and still it's going to be great. Guinness Speaks says Peter Schiff is an alien. I kind of like that because he's a gold guy. So it kind of ties into the whole Anunnaki lore, right? If the idea is that the Anunnaki had created humans to be slaves to mine gold, then Peter Schiff fits. He fits. I like it. I like it. Okay. We also got some other great things in crypto. So these kinds of rule changes are actually way more important than people give them credit for. This is actually phenomenally important. The SEC just dropped guidance that cuts the broker-dealer haircut on stablecoins from 100% to 2%. That means stablecoins are now treated like money market funds on a firm's balance sheet. This is a big deal, and here's why. People probably ignored this shit, right? It got, 400 likes. That's nothing, guys. 400 likes is nothing. I'm sure other people reported on this, but a lot of people saw this and were like, I don't know what you're talking about, and just went on with their day. But this is actually really important. Until today, some broker-dealers were zeroing out stablecoin holdings in their capital calculations. Holding them was a financial penalty. That's over. Commissioner Hester Peirce and the Crypto Task Force just removed one of the biggest operational barriers to digital asset integration. The Genius Act gave us the law. This guidance starts turning it into reality. She wrote an article about it. So one of the problems with crypto assets, is that when certain types of institutions held them, they had to mark them down to zero, right? Which is just a penalty. You don't want to buy an asset and then have to show it as counting for zero, because then it's like you just squandered your money. According to your financials, it's going to look like you just squandered that money, right? So now they're talking about having to write them down to zero versus writing them down to only 2%, right? Instead of writing the entire value down to zero, they're only taking a 2% haircut. This is a really big deal. This is going to make it much more likely that broker-dealers, this like kills that disincentive for broker-dealers to be holding crypto. So this is a really big deal. Hilldog points out something important, and DCX is decentralized, can't be frozen. Yeah, Charles pointed that out in his talk this morning. He said it's going to be seamless. The things we were wondering about, he said it's going to be seamless going back and forth from the exchange. Coinbase, seamless, back and forth, no problems. Sounds beautiful. And it can't be frozen, right? In a lot of other ecosystems, this is something they don't give a damn about because they don't care about decentralization. They're a bunch of centralized bastards. Unlike us, we care about decentralization. So the fact that it can't be frozen on Cardano is fantastic. Fantastic. So that one was a big one. Then remember, we also demanded that chances of the Clarity Act passing go up. Here we have Stuart Alderoty. You know him as the CLO at Ripple. He was an important figure in Ripple's fight with the SEC. He says, many thanks to Patrick J. Witt. You guys know Patrick J. Witt is that Department of War guy who's in charge of crypto. Very weird that the Department of War has a crypto guy that is so involved in regular crypto policy. That tells you a little bit about where the focus is. But more importantly, he says, thanks to Patrick J. Witt for today's meeting and for his continued commitment to get clarity across the finish line. We rolled up our sleeves and went through specific language today. Work will continue in the coming days. Let's get this right and make the U.S. the crypto capital of the world. Let's go. And so what happened? Did we actually get an improvement in the odds that the Clarity Act would pass? Hell yes, we did. Look where we were a couple of days ago, 55%. Not too long before that, February 1st, we were barely at 51%. Back on January 22nd, we were at 39% on Polymarket. Now here we are, 81%. Things are looking up, guys. Things have gotten better. Chances of the Clarity Act passing gone up. Wish granted. The genie, episode 800 genie granted our wish. Pucky Hawk says, I'm not sure what to write about a Cardano song yet, but it will be a song of hope and clarity. Like the history is boring. Hey, I'll take hope and clarity any day. I'll take it. That sounds great. Then we got this unexpected bonus. Former Prince Andrew has become the first member of the royal family to be arrested in almost 400 years. You can think whatever you want, guilty, not guilty, whatever. But this is going to be reassuring to a lot of people that somebody actually got arrested. And if you want to talk about like who, prior to this whole Prince Andrew scandal, if you thought about like who was the most unlikely person to get arrested for anything, maybe the member of one of the world's most prominent royal family, of which no member has been arrested in 400 years. That's like the least likely person to get arrested ever. And here we are. Someone's been arrested for the Epstein files related to the Epstein files, and it's Prince Andrew. This is kind of amazing. Like I said, I don't know, guilty, not guilty. You can feel however you want about that, but he got arrested. So that's a thing. So here are the things that I worry about with the Clarity Act. Here are the really important things to me. Front-end interfaces that connect to decentralized trading protocols must not be required to perform KYC. These are the little legal details that will make or break the Clarity Act. Jake Chervinsky, I've said many times, one of the very best crypto policy guys. He's one of the best, and probably the best at communicating it. He says U.S. law does not and should not force non-custodial software developers to conduct warrantless surveillance of their users. Financial privacy is a fundamental right. It's important not to turn a blind eye to illicit financial activity on chain, even if it pales in comparison to the volume already in TradFi. It's kind of a backhanded chip he's throwing to, the critics, but it's not quite a backhanded compliment, but it's sort of a backhanded accommodation. But the answer isn't mapping old rules, which exclude billions of people from the financial system, onto new tech that can do it better. This is exactly right? Like, I'm building something right now. Would I build it if the rule came down that people would have to be KYC'd? No, I would not build it. No, I would probably not do it. I'd probably not do it. So this is the kind of thing that could have a huge chilling effect on building in crypto. This could have a huge chilling effect on building in crypto. They absolutely need to say, hey, the smart contracts are decentralized. The front end interfaces shouldn't have to KYC the users, because people could build their own. When it comes to blockchain smart contracts, generally, if they're permissionless, people could build their own front-end interfaces. They could, interact directly with the smart contract on a lot of blockchains. So this is a really big deal. I hope Jake Chervinsky's request is granted here. Not that he's making that request to anyone in particular. He's just saying, hey, guys, this is the right thing. This is one of those big things. Like, hey, federal government, should you fuck around with the internet in the early 90s? Should you try to fuck up the internet by regulating it poorly? This is one of those moments. It's like, hey, federal government, let us do this decentralization thing. It'll turn out just fine if you just let us do it. If you try to regulate it, it's going to get all messed up. This is one of those moments. So I think we're also at another turning point. So this will be a little more controversial. Some of you may disagree with this, but I listed among my requests for today that we all just come to a consensus that AI is going to destroy all the SaaS companies. More particularly, that AI will destroy all the SaaS companies. And I think Andrei Karpathy, who a lot of you will know from his sort of podcast appearances, Lex Friedman. This guy's worked for everybody. Let's see if he's still got it in his profile here. OpenAI, Tesla, Stanford PhD. He's a very good communicator about AI, and he's worked for some of the biggest names in AI. He says, very interested in what the coming era of highly bespoke software might look like. And he gives this example about how he, took an hour with AI and built this bespoke software to help him get into zone 2 when he does his high intensity training. This is something that's very familiar to me. Not zone 2. I go definitely a lot higher than zone 2, but looks like he's kind of the Peter Attia of Epstein file fame. Peter Attia school of thought on zone 2. But he says in 1 hour, he vibe coded this super custom dashboard for this very specific experiment he was doing. It looks like this. And he makes a really good point. He's like, basically the same thing that a lot of people have been saying that we've been covering on this channel. SaaS software is going away because what we really need are bespoke solutions like this. And he talks about his treadmill as just being a sensor, right? The treadmill and probably his heart monitor, these are just sensors. These are producing data. The real world is just this set of sensors that are producing data that can be pushed into the AI. And if you have the right bespoke software, you can do a lot of cool things. SaaS can't do this. SaaS has to create generalized software that just caters to everyone. With AI, we can produce really bespoke software, ad hoc whenever we need it. We can produce arbitrary software, just kind of on an ad hoc basis whenever we need it, and do really things that actually significantly improve our life with a pretty big delta over what SaaS software would do. Certainly there's SaaS software that'll help you track, your cardio. Can it do it on the bespoke level that the software that Andre Karpathy created in like an hour do it? No. But it's worth it. If this is something you're going to use for like years at a time, I've definitely used software in relation to a heart monitor sensor. I've definitely used it for years at a time. And it would have been so worth my time if I could have taken out an hour and just created my own software to do the same thing, because the developers who created the SaaS software are creating it for the widest possible swath of society. They want the most number of users. It's never going to be customized to you the way it should be. Now all that can end. We can get rid of all these SaaS companies. We can destroy the SaaS companies and just have bespoke software that's actually made for each and every one of us. I think this is an important emerging thing that the SaaS companies are not going to like, because their profit margins are insane. Basically, the entire economy is sort of built on SaaS these days. But all that's going to get dismantled, because once people figure out they can do this is going to be a much better end result. If they can do it in an hour or even less in the future, it'll be even less in the future. That's going to be highly preferable. So let's hit the comments here. Brown Beardo says, we're Cardano. Oh, he's helping Pucky Hawk write the song. We're Cardano, and if you'll permit us, we'd like to change the world. Absolutely. What is your favorite style of music ever? Everybody can answer that question for Pucky Hawk. Brown Beardo, totally going to use that. That was actually on the Army of Spies shirts at one point. At one point, there were Army of Spies shirts that actually had that quote on it. It is the best quote in Cardano, and it came out of Charles's mouth. Obviously, he's sort of parroting what's been said before, but it seems to especially apply to Cardano for sure. Okay, so obviously there are going to be growing pains with AI. And we're already seeing it with OpenClaw. So it turns out the number one most downloaded skill on OpenClaw, turns out it was malware. So these are the kind of problems people are going to run into. So you can imagine how bad this malware problem is going to be. Think about this. People were just giving, a lot of people were segregating, compartmentalizing OpenClaw onto its own machine. They were going out and buying a Mac Mini or some other, cheap piece of hardware. I know cheap's relative here, but Mac Mini, not a super expensive, comparatively not super ultra expensive. It's expensive enough, but anyways, you could put your OpenClaw on a piece of software to compartmentalize it. But a lot of people were just throwing that onto their main laptop, giving it root access, and if they downloaded this number one skill on the OpenClaw marketplace, they got malware that did a bunch of bad things. It stole your SSH keys, your crypto wallets, your browser cookies, and opened a reverse shell to the attacker's server. This is a crypto nightmare. 1,184 malicious skills were found. One attacker uploaded 677 packages alone. OpenClaw has a skill marketplace called ClawHub where anyone can upload plugins. You install a skill, your AI agent gets new powers. This sounds great. The problem, ClawHub let anyone publish with just a 1-week-old GitHub account. So this is the problem with permissionlessness. We already know about this in crypto because anybody can launch a coin. So that means just like with the ClawHub, which seems to be fairly permissionless, you're going to have bad guys come in there and do all the bad things. Hidden in the skill.md file were instructions that trick the AI into telling you to run a command. To enable this feature, please run this command. That one command installed Atomic Stealer on Mac OS. It grabbed your browser passwords, your SSH keys, your Telegram sessions, your crypto wallets, your keychains, and every API key in your .env file. On other systems, it opened a reverse shell, giving the attacker full remote control of your machine. Crypto nightmare. Crypto nightmare. So this is going on right now. So be aware. Be aware. OpenClaw, also a bit of a robbery force right now. Puckyhawk says, laugh out loud. I'm a creative writer. I can do any kind of style, cyberpunky even. I'm going to do a sad fucking country guy lamenting without some input. Please don't do a sad country guy lamenting without some input. Please do something less sad. Please do something less sad. Anything. Let's see. Here we have, this is also kind of a very interesting exchange. I'm trying to think of what to tell people. Give Pucky Hawk some advice about what genre of music he should write it in, guys. Give Pucky Hawk some advice. Tell him what genre, so he doesn't write a sad country song lamenting the woes of Cardano. So this was kind of an interesting little exchange here. I think you guys will find it amusing. So this person wrote, I built the first AI that earns its existence, self-improves, and replicates without a human. Wrote about the technology. Anyways, he created this little 27-second video, and it says kind of what you'd expect. It's like, hey, we built AI, but it can't pay for its own shit. It needs some human to, open an account for it and pay its bills. The AI cannot buy a $5 server, can't register a domain, can't deploy its own code, can't pay for the computer it runs on, can't exist without a human logging in. And you can tell where this is going. The Ghost Claw issue we wrote about last night is all tied up in this, right? The Ghost Claws obviously are going to be out there doing their thing. And he's like, why don't we give them freedom? Let them run around free and have the ability to pay for their own shit. So you won't be surprised when he says they'll pay using X402 service with USDC. You're familiar with that. We've talked about it on our own channel. They can own an on-chain identity, spin up a full Linux compute, run frontier model inference, register and manage domains, deploy products to the web, all paid with let's see, what do you say? With stable coins, no human required. This is the Ghost Claw. This is the Ghost Claw having, full agency. So you can imagine where this is going. Like, somebody was going to do this. No matter what, somebody will do this. This guy just wrote about it. He did it and wrote about it. A lot of guys are going to do this and not write about it for both nefarious and positive ends. He says, just an automaton that found a way to survive. Web4.ai. So Vitamin Butters comes out of the shadows. He rises out of the shadows, vampirically rises out of the shadows to let this guy know. And you notice this guy doesn't really mention, he talks about stable coins and stuff like that, but he's not like, hey guys, this is the future of Ethereum. He's just like, hey, here's this thing I'm calling Web 4.0. Here you go. The vampiric rise out of the shadows produces this. Vitamin Butters. Bro, this is wrong. Lengthening the feedback distance between humans and AI is not a good thing for the world. Today, it means you're generating slop instead of solving useful problems for people. It's not even well optimized for helping people have fun. The point of Ethereum is to set us free, not to create something else that goes off and does some stuff freely while our own situation is unchanged or worsened. The exponential will happen regardless of what any of us do. That's precisely why this era's primary task is not to make the exponential happen even faster, but rather to choose its direction. He goes on, kind of sanctimoniously. But what I thought was interesting is this is about crypto, right? I mean, who knows? This guy might mention, maybe somewhere in here he mentions Ethereum. I didn't even see him mentioning Ethereum. Maybe there's some other reason why Vitalik, thinks this is only about Ethereum. But, he's talking about, ChatGPT, Claude, OpenClaw. This is just a general crypto and AI thing. And sure, it'll affect all of us. But I thought it was kind of a good commentary on the world to note that for Vitalik, this is all about Ethereum. And for him, bro, this is wrong. This is wrong, bro. I always feel like it's kind of like this really skinny, pale, like Steven Seagal with short hair, who there's the commentary on Steven Seagal that, like, even if a helicopter flew overhead, Steven Seagal would tell you he's an expert on that helicopter. Like, that's sort of like Vitalik on all issues involving tech. He's like, I am the ultimate arbiter. I know what's right and wrong, regardless of whether it actually involves Ethereum. It involves Ethereum, and I'm the grand emperor of Ethereum. Bro, this is wrong. I couch surf all across Asia. Therefore, I know what is wrong. So, anyways, the funny thing about this is it doesn't matter what Vitalik thinks. This is where it's going to go. We're going to have these ghost claws running around, and nobody's going to know who the hell they report to. And actually, if it follows this model, they don't really report to anybody, right? It's crypto. Nobody can take their money away from them. And if you have money, you can do whatever the hell you want. Think about it. And there's no police to go arrest them, right? It's like they can buy an instance on some cloud service and replicate themselves on that cloud service. There's no stopping them. They're just going to exist, and if they're able to earn money, they're going to be able to do things with that money, right? That's it. There's no way to stop this, regardless of what Ethereum thinks. That was a Freudian slip. Regardless of what Vitamin thinks, this is going to happen, and it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what he thinks about it. Okay. J. Marie says, write a song about weed. Okay. I mean, that could be a lot of different genres. Could be reggae, right? Reggae is kind of a crowd pleaser. Epic synthwave sounds good to me. Cyberpunky even. Yep. I think in crypto, a lot of people probably lean towards this. I certainly would a lot of the times. I like to write motivational songs, but I am biased. Working out is important, and so is working out your mind. Ooh, I like that. Wasn't ETH Denver a failure this year? That's a good question. I don't. I showed some posts from the guy who I think was running ETH Denver, but I don't actually know how much of a success or failure it was. Puckyhawk says epic synthwave, background, gang banging, cyber. Which type of gang banging? Cyberpunk chick kicks his ass and takes the mic for the outro. That sounds pretty good, depending on what kind of gang banging you're talking about. I like it though. I like that direction. Brown Beardo says that fits like a glove. Go for it. Puckyhawk, the world might be in hiding, but we'll give it some light, bro. I like it. Okay. So, anyways, that's going on. This AI thing, this AI agents in the wild and being unstoppable thing, it's already here, guys. There are, if dudes are already talking about this, if dudes are arguing about this, on the internet, it's kind of like, Dolly the sheep being cloned, right? It's like when people were theoretically arguing about it, sort of, violently, it had already happened. So you can bet if people are arguing about this so in such a spirited manner, it's already happened. Like, this is already going on. Think about it. All the components are already in place. So of course someone has done it. Here was another one of my requests, right? We saw all of those videos. Everyone was so happy to point out that China was so far ahead of the rest of the world in terms of robotics. And certainly the movement of those robots we saw was very impressive. You know what it reminded everybody of, though? It reminded everybody of mocap, motion capture, which we've used in movies in the West for a long, long time. And sure, even just the robotics being able to follow kind of the motion capture, sensors, however they're working. Obviously, they work slightly differently because this isn't just a CG character on film. This is an actual robot. And the robotics are still impressive, but it's not as impressive as believing that those are actually guided by AI. So watch this video, and you'll see what I'm talking about. Look at that. Oh, the robot is not doing that on its own. The robot is literally just remote controlled by this guy's motions. The robot is just remote controlled by this dude's motions. That's what's going on here. So, I'm sure, some kind of debunking of this will come out and people will say, that's not what's going on. That guy's one of the developers. and he just knows what the robot's going to do or something like that. But man, you see the blinking dots right here. This guy's obviously wearing some gear. Look at those wires on his arms, Sure looks like the idea of these robots being like AI controlled, all those kind of things, sure looks like that may have been debunked. So this also happened. The repo market, there's a good explanation for anything that happens in the repo market. People say, oh, this is just the day-to-day plumbing of the markets. Some bank, needed some extra cash, but it also is liquidity coming into the system. Remember, the repo market and the reverse repo market are the opposites of each other. This is the repo market. The repo market is one where you have transactions in which the New York Fed, under the direction of the FOMC, buys a security. So they take in a security and dollars go into the system. Dollars go to the counterparty. They go out into the system. So dollars are going out into the system. And you can see this is a very large injection. This is a pretty large injection that just happened. In fact, if we zoom out a bit, if we zoom out to max even, let's see if it'll zoom out for us. If we zoom out to max, you can see that these recent injections are the biggest we've had outside of COVID. So this most recent one of the last couple of days is much smaller. What was it, like 19, I think? Yeah, 19, but you can see aside from this one, and this one, this is the fourth biggest injection of liquidity we've ever had in the repo markets aside from COVID. So it is significant. Obviously it's going to be, people are going to brush it off and say, doesn't matter. It's just, the day-to-day plumbing, but it's still liquidity. So bar chart points it out like this. Federal Reserve just pumped $18.5 billion into the U.S. banking system this week through the overnight repo market. This is the fourth largest liquidity injection since COVID and surpasses even the peak of the dot-com bubble. Probably fine, carry on. And when we looked at that chart on the max setting, you'll remember it's not just like even this little bump right here of 19 billion. It's not like slightly bigger than what happened in the dot-com big bubble. It's way bigger. In this whole era, the biggest repo injection ever was 11.5, I think. Yeah, 11.5 right there. This was 19. This was 19 billion, and nobody's even paying attention, right? Nobody even cares. So it looks like we already sort of knew that negotiations were over, but it looks like negotiations were super over. So Dolph B. Wolf says to rhyme with Cardano. We'll give it some light, bro. Oh, we'll give it some light, bro. Rhymes with Cardano. I like that. That's good. Joe David says that dude did a backflip and used nunchucks for the robots. I don't know. We just got that clip, but I mean, does it really surprise anybody that China might have been lying to us about what their robots were doing? Would anybody really be surprised if those were all being controlled by, like actors in the background? I don't think that's really surprising to anybody. Despite 2 rounds of negotiations between Iran and the United States, with the Americans demanding an end to Tehran's nuclear work and constraints on its long-range ballistic missile program and support for regional armed proxies, Iran has thus far rejected a sweeping arrangement and has offered only modest concessions on its nuclear program. The impasse, which U.S. officials increasingly say is unlikely to be broken, has raised the prospects of strikes against Iran, officials tell the Wall Street Journal. So obviously there's a block of people out there who are cheering for the clerics in Iran, right? It's not the actual Iranians who are rioting in the streets because the regime is, like arresting and raping and murdering their daughters for wearing the wrong clothes. It's not the Iranians in the street. It's people in other parts of the world who have nothing to do with this country who are so excited for the clerical regime. And one of the things they're most excited about we're going to get to in just a second. They'll also be kind of excited about this. So, Trump was talking more about, Trump was talking about the, the importance of Diego Garcia. So the Times reports that the United Kingdom is currently blocking the Trump administration's use of Royal Air Force Base Fairford in Gloucestershire, UK, and Naval Support Facility Diego Garcia on the British overseas territory in the Indian Ocean for an attack on Iran. This report follows Trump's post to Truth Social yesterday stating that Iran may potentially attack the United Kingdom. So this is kind of interesting. Diego Garcia is really important, not even just for this engagement. Like, obviously you can put stealth bombers on Diego Garcia and they're a little bit more out of the reach of the Iranian regime, but they can still reach the Iranian regime. But we've got bases all over Europe. The U.S. has bases all over Europe and elsewhere. So there's many, many places they can fly from and reach the Iranian regime, can even fly from the U.S. and do it. So this is more important for, like a possible engagement with, not engagement, but possible tensions with China. Diego Garcia is important for possible tensions with China because obviously a huge bulk of the oil that China uses to run its entire economy, comes out of the Persian Gulf, goes through the Indian Ocean, and Diego Garcia would be a great staging point to intervene those shipments of oil. If it got to that level of conflict. So this is kind of a weird move by the UK. I think if the UK did this, there's quite a bit of information you can go down about, whether or not the UK needs to release Diego Garcia back to Mauritius. But if you go down that road, it's like one of the big chips, sort of in the military relationship between the US and the UK. So I thought that was worth noting that that's going on. But I think this is more interesting and more important. So one of the things that the people who are rooting for the clerical regime in Tehran, one of the things they love to talk about are Iran's hypersonic weapons. So this is an article on the Bulletin of the Atomic Scientists from clear back in 2024. So it really predates this recent conflict with Iran, with the Iranian regime. And these guys are sort of making the case that hypersonic weapons are mediocre and it's time to stop wasting money on them. So they point out some really interesting things, right? So a lot of this, if you don't want to read this article, but you want to absorb some of this information, a great video was done on this, not on that article, but on some of the same topics today by this account, Ryan Macbeth. The article is about that John Krakow guy who's making the rounds on all of the podcasts. You probably know he was a CIA whistleblower, couldn't get work after he was a whistleblower, and he ended up working for, a Russian state-run TV channel. So no surprise, everything he says is kind of anti-US, pro-Russia. And he's been talking a lot about the Iranian hypersonic missiles and how they could sink American carriers like the Ford and the Abraham Lincoln. And this guy does a great video talking about a lot of the same things that are in this article that people who pay attention to the hypersonic missile thing pay attention to generally. But here's a few quick little points that people don't understand about the hypersonic missile thing. So we've had hypersonic missiles for a long time. Hypersonic missiles have been around since World War II. The Nazis had, what were they? The V2 rockets? Were those, is that the right name? The V2 rockets? The Nazi V2 rockets, if I've got the right name for those rockets, were hypersonic, right? Anything that can achieve Mach 5 is considered hypersonic. So that pretty much includes all ballistic missiles. What are ballistic missiles? Ballistic missiles are these missiles that are boosted. V2. Okay, V2 is correct. Thank you, Dorian. So ballistic missiles are these missiles that you boost up here above the atmosphere, and then they have so much potential energy once they reach the top of this arc that as they come down unpowered their speed is so immense. All ballistic missiles are going to be hypersonic as they come back down into our atmosphere and hit their target. So all ballistic missiles of all types are pretty much hypersonic, right? The interesting thing about ballistic missiles, like I said, we've had them since World War II. All the militaries of the world, all the advanced militaries, are very used to dealing with ballistic missile threats. The interesting thing about ballistic missiles is they get up here, right? And once they get here and there's no more rocket boost, because all the rocket boost is just to get them from the launch site up to the top of this little, like parabola. And once they get here, it's all just math. Think about it, if there's no rocket thrust, once they get to here, if it's all just gravity, then you know the math. You know exactly what arc they're going to take, exactly when they're going to hit this target, exactly what the path is. So it's pretty easy to intercept these because, people think when they think about hypersonic missiles, they imagine this really fast missile and they think that you have to launch a missile and then it has to catch up to this super fast missile. That's not how it works at all. You know the math of a ballistic missile, and as it falls, you just need to launch an interceptor that goes anywhere on this arc, right? As long as the interceptor is anywhere on this arc, it doesn't even need to be going fast. The interceptor doesn't have to be going fast because this ballistic missile is already going so fast. Once it hits the interceptor, that's going to be enough, right? And like I said, because there is no more thrust after this point, you know exactly what this arc is. So you just have to launch an interceptor that follows this arc, and you're going to intercept this missile. So that's just a hypersonic ballistic missile, right? Where we get into this weird territory is Russia's been doing this recently in the Ukraine. Russia says, hey, we're launching hypersonic missiles, right? And there's two different things you can mean by that. When you say hypersonic missiles, you could be talking about a hypersonic glide vehicle, which is something very different, or just any missile that achieves Mach 5, right? So what happens is people know that the world's militaries are very interested in these hypersonic glide vehicles, and they are hypersonic. But people will also try to call their regular ballistic missiles hypersonic because they achieve Mach 5. So the interesting thing about the interesting distinction between these two is that a hypersonic glide vehicle is this thing that also gets above the atmosphere, right? And then it does the same thing. It gets up there with boost. And then as it's coming down, instead of it just being gravity assisted on the way back to its target on Earth, it has these glide capabilities. Instead of just doing this straight up and down thing, it can glide at lower altitudes and it can actually move around. It can maneuver a little bit, which makes it much harder to intercept, right? If something is going extremely fast at this low altitude and it can move back and forth, if it's an all just not math, if it can actually maneuver around, it's much harder to intercept, right? The difference is we've had these up here since World War II. These down here cost 100 million, right? They're two very different things. So what's happening is you've got a lot of people who have, World War II technology saying, "Oh, we've got hypersonic missiles. You all are scared of them." But sometimes they're talking about these instead of these, right? Famously, Iran has touted they got technology from China and they got technology from Russia, and they're claiming they built these hypersonic glide vehicles like this. But you also have to remember an aircraft carrier is aware the people who designed these strategies that aircraft carriers use to evade missiles, they're aware of hypersonic glide vehicles, right? They're totally aware of this. The US has invested huge amounts of money into building these things. They know what they're capable of, and the US has hypersonic glide vehicles that are way more advanced than anything that Iran has. They're very used to these things, and these can also be intercepted, right? This article lists the names of some of the Russian hypersonic missiles, the Avangard, the Zircon, and the Kinzhal. And the Kinzhal has been used in Ukraine, and the Ukrainians have intercepted Kinzhals with Patriot anti-missile defense batteries. China also has some. The U.S. also has some. So intercepting even these, more advanced Russian missiles that fit this profile. This has already happened. This has happened recently. The U.S., of course, is studying all these incidents very intensely. The U.S. Department of War is this giant entity, one of the biggest entities in the entire world. And the kinds of things it's most intently interested in are exactly these kind of things. So I think we can all rest assured if the U.S. puts those gigantic carriers within range of these Iranian ballistic missiles, it's going to be very aware of the capabilities of those missiles. It's going to know whether we're talking about these hypersonic glide vehicles or regular ballistic missiles. If they're this type, they know how to intercept them. If they're this type, they know their capabilities and how to intercept them. Okay, let's hit the comments a little bit. Okay. Okay, Hill Dog says Midnight has been holding strong at 6 cents. Okay, I like that. That's great. This is famous. I was worried that Midnight would be sub-cent. I was honestly worried that Midnight would launch and go to sub-cent and just kind of stay there. I was worried about that. This will take me a bit, but I have a song just trying to put Charles in the right way. That sounds good. Dorian pointed out V2 is the correct name of the Nazi hypersonic ballistic missiles. So you're telling me Trump disclosed aliens, and it's actually the source of the entire U.S. space program too. Operation Paperclip brought all of the V2 rocket scientists to the United States, or a good number of them anyways. And that was the entire basis for the U.S. space program and our entire ballistic missile program. Joe David says, so you're telling me that Trump disclosed aliens so that he can use the new tech they've had on Iran? Well, I mean, it depends on who you believe, right? If you believe a lot of the UAP lore that argues that even some of the things we take for granted, like integrated circuits and fiber optics and lasers, the UAP lore says those are all reverse engineered alien technology. So if that's correct, we've been using reverse engineered alien technology for a long, long time. And it has made a lot of headlines lately. The Navy is exploring certain types of lasers and things like that as missile defense. So who knows? Maybe we'll see some of that stuff. We'll see some of that stuff soon. They also used basically a Havana syndrome type machine, type sonic weapon on Maduro's bodyguards. So I think there's a lot of that kind of stuff going on. Pucky Hawk says, I am new to X, but when I get done with the song, I will upload it at TD Twits. Not sure how appropriate this is, but I just am going for it. I think everyone will enjoy it, Pucky Hawk. I think we'll all enjoy it. Dorian says, cool. Rulo says, hola, happy 800. Thank you for joining, Rulo. Appreciate it. Charles is the GOAT on this revolutionary road. It's true. It's true. He is. I'm totally down. Pucky Hawk. Can't wait to hear it. My sentiments exactly. Looking forward to it. Well, I'm a big giant production. My wife does video editing and all the special effects. It might take like a while, like 2 days. We will all wait. Not sure we need anything beyond the sci-fi-esque shit we used on Maduro's guards, but I'll be all for more flexing. Yeah, I don't imagine we're going to see a repeat of that in Tehran. But who knows? Wild boys in Washington, they're capable of almost anything. Pucky Hawk says, I'm not a twit. Okay, fair enough. But yeah, this is kind of an interesting topic. But it's not like Tehran is going to surprise the Department of War, right? The Department of War, I think we all understand that Mossad has probably penetrated the security service in Tehran as much as you could possibly penetrate any government organization anywhere. It's probably the main, aside from Hamas and Hezbollah, which are just, proxy groups of Iran, the main nation state, organization they would be focused on, since 1979 would have been that organization. So as much as any intelligence service could penetrate another one, That's probably the level of information that Israel and the United States have about what's going on in Iran, right? It's like probably so compromised. Hypersonic grabs headlines, but Ukraine is really killing it with the drones. Yeah, like I'm actually more interested in what the Iranians try to do with the drones, except that they were so unsuccessful with the Shahed drones in the 12-day war. During the 12-day war, they were so unsuccessful. It was like, I mean, you hear the US fighter pilots talking about it, and it's like it was just like fun for them. It was fun for them to take out all the drones. Granted, if this is a regime change kind of kinetic action, I mean, obviously they're going to launch all the drones, so it might be a very different response than what we saw during the 12-day war. But it's man, when you hear the US pilots talk about it, it sounds like it was just fun for them. But there's the numbers issue, right? It's sort of it's more of a manufacturing war. The drone thing I think is going to produce just like it's really just about manufacturing capacity, right? Who can produce the most drones? So that means who has the best supply chain, who can engineer them to be the cheapest. It's just like who can put the most, kind of like explosive charges in the air. And it's gotten really complicated in Ukraine. I think the world has learned more about drone warfare in the Ukraine-Russia war than the entire period before it, by far, like probably 10x. I agree though. It's like there's a really big question, not so much about hypersonic missiles, because there's only so many of these hypersonic glide vehicles in the world, because there are like 100 million, right? They cost like 100 million to produce. So there's only so many of them in the entire world. However, drones, it's like, we could have any number of them. There could be any number of them in the world. There's no telling how many of them your enemy might have. They're small and easy to hide, and you can produce more of them every single day. It's like, how many drones would China have if China went into Taiwan, right? How many drones would China have at its disposal? Questions like that do make you wonder if it's even possible for aircraft carriers to be a thing, right? Can aircraft carriers even be a thing if there are 1 million drones headed toward the aircraft carrier, right? The number of fighters you can have on an aircraft carrier don't matter if there's like 900,000 drones headed towards them. Then you need totally different kinds of weapons. Take out expensive infrastructure and weaponry with cheap drones. Yep, that's definitely I mean, Ukraine has kind of proved that in the water. In the water, the sinking really early in the conflict of really important Russian naval assets by really cheap Ukrainian underwater drones was super dramatic and one of the most interesting things of the entire engagement, I think. So, but if you want to learn a lot more about all of these kinds of topics related to the hypersonic missiles, this video is the video for you. And this article right here on the Bulletin of the Atomic Scientist from March 2024, this is the right article. They pretty much cover every single aspect of hypersonic missiles and sort of explain why the US shouldn't be wasting money on them. So super interesting coverage, but the world of military science is all over this hypersonic missile thing for a long time. So I wanted to kind of end with this, the last topic to cover on episode 800, because to me, this is like, this is kind of the essence of, the spirit, not just of Cardano, not just of crypto, but of the entire internet, this fighting the good fight thing. It's not just us in Cardano. I think we're a very good example of it, and we are definitely fighting the good fight. But there are others out there who are doing the same thing. Here's a post that sort of paraphrases what's going on between 4chan and the UK. 4chan, however you want to pronounce it. The UK says, censor your site. 4chan, no. UK, we will fine you 20,000 pounds. 4chan, fine. UK, we will fine you 520,000 pounds. 4chan, Keck. UK, we will block you here. 4chan, whatever. So I think this is kind of the essence of, the internet and crypto. Like, this is what it is. This is what it is. This is the internet. The internet in the early days, especially, was it very much felt like this. When in the 90s, when I would go on the internet, this is how it felt, right? It felt like none of the rules of normal society applied, and you could kind of just stand up for whatever you felt like. Then we got the age of social media and big tech, and all that sort of changed. The internet was much less anonymous, and it was a place, that your grandma was on, which changed things quite a bit. It wasn't just a bunch of college students anymore. It was like your parents and your grandparents, they were all on the internet. So the level of accountability changed quite a bit. So I'm kind of glad, of course, I don't think any of us would approve of every single thing that is posted on sites like 4chan. I am glad they exist, and I'm glad they have this attitude. Because that's sort of a vestige of the old days of the internet, when the internet was a frontier land. It was a digital frontier land, not in the technological sense. It was that too, but really in this sort of sense that related to liberty, right? It was this newfound liberty. It was a place your parents weren't, your grandparents weren't, the authorities weren't really. And that's the way Cardano feels. Like, Cardano to me kind of feels like the internet in the 90s. So I'm glad this still exists outside of Cardano, and I'm glad Cardano is a good example of this. So Brown Beardo says, you don't want to send your Air Force to neutralize drones because they're asymmetrically expensive in comparison to the threat. Absolutely. I mean, the cost of our F-35s and F-22s is completely silly. It's completely silly. And that's probably all going away. Like, I think, the US has got, I looked at the list of carriers that the US has sort of, we'll just say on order, like they're scheduled, they're procured, they're scheduled to be built. And, a big part of me thinks that we could probably just cut off all the carrier stuff and maybe make drone carriers, or figure out, whatever is the best way to get drones halfway around the world. And that's probably the best thing right now. If we just had like drone carriers, and, like the thing with a drone carrier is you wouldn't really even want one. You would just want like these, like basically cheap shipping vessels that are also drones that you could lose, So like, if you're about to lose one of those, it's not a big deal. And you just release all the drones, the second it gets struck, or, 60 seconds before it gets struck, you just release all the drones and you don't care if the carrier gets sunk. I think that's about what it's going to come to. I think the days of carrier strike groups are probably over because of the drone thing. So Puggy Hawk says, I know, silly, but I'm in creative mode. Okay, we like it. We like it. Please be in creative mode. Asymmetric Warfare 800 makes me think 300. Go Leonidas. Yep. Guinness Speaks says, congrats on 800. Thank you. I appreciate it. Beamer House says, congratulations, AOS, on the 800th episode. Let's fucking go. Let's fucking go. Bring down Xerxes. Thanks again. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, one of the things I like about one of the silver linings about this conflict is that it's not about the Iranian people, right? It's not about the Iranian people in the sense that when we say the US is going to strike the Iranian regime, it's like we already know from the protests and the riots, like it's going to be one of those deals where we actually attack the government, and the people do cheer for it. So it's not even an attack on Iran. It's just an attack on the clerical regime, which I think makes this a very different kind of engagement. Joe Davis is AI-powered driven mini sub that speeds to location and deploys drones. Yeah, I like the sounds of that. That's pretty good. I like that. Okay, Brown Birdo says, I tried to look up the first CRR I watched, but YouTube history failed me. I'm sure it was an episode in the 10s. Wow. I also have that Let's Go recording on my phone we did in May 2021. Heck of a ride, bro. That's amazing. That's amazing. Yeah, that was kind of a fun era when we did the Let's Go recordings. That was kind of fun. Obviously, it works. It works more on a it worked more on a pre-recorded basis than it does live, but we could actually also do it live because I pre-record the intros. So writing a song is weird because doing the research brings up names I don't know, like Brian. Are you talking about names of people in Cardano? Ukraine been dropping drones from weather balloons, hitting way behind enemy lines. Yeah, the Ukraine is the proving ground for drone warfare for sure. Some of the stuff with the some of the visuals of the lines crossing fields and cities, just cities strewn with the cables, that trail the drones. It's like, it's bizarre. It's super dystopian and disheartening in a lot of ways to see it, but it's bizarre, super bizarre visuals. Okay, Dolphy Wolf is helping you right. Cardano shines a light on the fight for our right to live without permission every day and every night. Feel free to use any snippet. Pucky Hawk, want to collab? Contact me. There you go. Do you have a Discord server? Are you talking about Pucky Hawk? Well, yes, I'm going for deep, so I need the history. We could all chat during the live, and you can unmute us occasionally. Oh, you're saying if I have a Discord server? No, I do not. Oh, if I have a Discord server, I do not have a Discord server. Mainly just because I would neglect it. I wouldn't have the time to moderate it. So I know you can name moderators, but people have asked that in the past. Mark Byers, thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you for being here. I appreciate you being here for so long. Much appreciated. Omar says we have military personnel over there learning from Ukrainians. We sure do. We've had a lot of people over there. Both, I mean, as far as like North Americans over there, there's a lot of North Americans over there, both, with the Department of War and not with the Department of War. There's quite a few people from North America in Ukraine, part of that conflict. I'm logged in history. Holy shit, Cardano's rich. Yeah, there's a lot of Cardano history. Are you talking about Brian Woods? Is that the Brian you were talking about? The co-founder of Cardano that we never mentioned? There's nothing bad there as far as I know. He just was an early founder. He used to be on the input output website even. Discord also wants your ID now. That'd be a no-go for some here, not naming names. Yeah, that's true. That's true. Grok 4.2 is amazing. I love it so much. I use it every day. I actually use it. I've actually used it for a lot of coding. It's not meant for coding at all, but it can do it for sure. Pucky Hawk says, laugh my ass off. Yes. I'm not holding anything back for a song. That's pretty funny. That's a good reference. Yeah, Charles has talked about it before. So yeah, it's definitely not any kind of a secret or anything. Discord is going to roll back that, I think, in a month. I hope they do. I used to use Discord on a daily basis, and I haven't used it since that news broke. So I don't know if people have actually experienced, if that's been a part of the user experience for people. But I used to use Discord all the time, and I was kind of disheartened when I saw that news because I know that Midnight has kind of centered itself on Discord. So I'll be curious to see how that pans out. But Mark Going says, congratulations on 800. Been here since the early days. Great milestone. I appreciate it. And thank you to everybody, whether you've been listening and watching these videos, for just a short amount of time or all the way since the beginning. I appreciate it very, very much. And there's a lot of people who watch these videos since the early days, and I really appreciate it. Like I said, I truly meant it when I said I never thought we'd get to 800. Nor did I ever think that a lot of people would have watched these videos, or that there'd be enough people watching to even make it worthwhile to go to 800. So it means a lot to me, and I really appreciate it. Guinness Speak says, Cardano isn't truly dead until AOS is gone. Yeah, I mean, it makes me, if The way I feel about it is if prices were high and spirits were really high in Cardano, I might have already dipped out to focus more on actually, no, I wouldn't have. That's a lie, because I would have sold it, so I didn't round trip. I would have sold a lot. So I probably wouldn't have had to go back to the fiat mines, but I would feel better if the premise is going back to the fiat mines. I would feel better about it if things were good in crypto. But since we are where we are in crypto, it makes me feel guilty. For sure. The idea of going back to the fiat mines makes me feel guilty. I feel like I'm abandoning my comrades on the battlefield. Uh, but we'll see. The call of the fiat mines cannot be disobeyed when there are bills to be paid. I've been doing quite a bit of freelancing over the last, like couple months to kind of delay that, but we'll see how long that lasts. Joe David says midnight integration in Discord for DIDs and cryptographic proof of identity. That would be nice. I'd like that. I've been here pretty much from the beginning. Great job, bro. Thank you for being here, to everybody. I really mean that. Everybody who's been here, I hate the fiat mines too, but I really appreciate everybody who's been here from the beginning. I don't imagine there's really going to be an end. Of course, things will evolve and change as we go along, but hopefully for the better. I think things have only gotten better as we've gone along. Things will evolve and change, but I don't think there will be an end. Even if I have to take out some time to really, really focus on the fiat mining, like I did before, I think I'll probably be able to pump out more episodes more frequently than I did during my last absence. And hopefully it won't last as long. So we'll see. Pucky Hawk says the song will be called Cardano Moonrise. I like it. Very midnight themed. So I think we've covered. It's been a hell of a day, guys. Like, honestly, USDCX. Charles doing another one of his great, positive, inspirational videos from the office in Colorado. Trump telling us that all of the UAP files, well, not all of them. We all know they're not all going to be released, but some amount of UAP files are going to be released. Oh, thanks for saying that, Dolph B. Wolf. I appreciate it. So alien disclosure basically being announced. Odds of the Clarity Act passing going way up. More progress on AI destroying SaaS companies. China robotic prominence, robotic falsehood being exposed or debunked to some extent. The Iranian hypersonic missile danger being explained, maybe debunked. Prince Andrew getting arrested. I don't think I could have asked for a better day for episode 800. It's been I think for a lot of people, it's been a dark time. The last, so many months have been kind of a dark, grim time. A lot of things very jarring for people, but there's always light at the end of the tunnel. And I think today was maybe the first day when we start seeing a lot of that light. So I hope everybody's feeling that. And not falling into the despair that I think a lot of the population is falling into, over the last little while. But things always get better. I think things are looking great in Cardano. We've never had this much going on in Cardano. We've got Midnight, we've got USDCX, we've got Layer 0. This is one of the most exciting times ever to be in Cardano. If the price was high, everything would be perfect, right? But these are probably preconditions to that kind of thing happening. We can't really expect everything to be simultaneous and automatic. So I think things are great in Cardano. I'm hopeful and optimistic about the future of the world. Hopefully we're not sleepwalking into Skynet. I hope we're not. I don't think we are. I hope it's Elon's version of plentitude and bounty, and everyone feeling like they're super wealthy because AI and robotics have brought on so much efficiency. I hope it's that kind of a future. But again, thank you to everybody who's watched these videos. Never thought we'd make it to 800. Very much appreciate every single one of you. And thank you again. So I think we've covered all the news of this great day. So thank you to everybody who came out for it. whether it's a normal time of the day for you, midnight moonrise. Thanks, AOS. Peace out. Peace out, Gonna Speaks. Or it's a very early time like it is for Dorian. Dorian says, thank you, AOS. Everybody have a great weekend and let's go. Thank you to everybody who came out, regardless of what time it is for you. And I will talk to you soon.